on. Wait. Okay, great.
No problem. Okay, so this meeting, the focus is to tackle the panel that we have submitted for Siggraph, which is all about empowering a diverse community post-pandemic and how we can use technology to do so. I think that pretty much sums it up, if I'm not mistaken, Kevin. So Lemur, I'm just going to refresh my memory really quickly, but I think from what I understood from what Kevin mentioned to me, that you're coming at this from the business side of it and employability, right?
Right. Also kind of education side of it all. So, you know, my background is in design that also was in the film and television industry in terms of production design, but also producing things. And then working in the innovation economy to build platforms like Valence that are kind of software ecosystems for people to find work or to connect and to get mentored.
Okay, that's perfect. Okay, so it's less about, it's more, it's the connections, the community connections that your focus is right now at Valence.
Yeah, community connections, resources, and exposure. Understanding that there are these options, right? Because a lot of people don't know what they're looking at when they see all the effects in the Black Widow movies, that those are actually careers that they could be involved with.
You know, and I think the biggest challenge for companies like us that make tools that do that is how to educate people that these opportunities, that there's opportunities available, whether it's low-cost software, learning platforms, organizations like yours, organizations like specific industry organizations. That's a huge challenge. So I think this panel is a good step to do that. But yeah, I think for me, that's the biggest question, right? Like, how do we have more people know about your community?
And then you're with, which group were you with?
So I'm with a company called Foundry, and we produce visual effects software to make. Hi, Anna Marie.
Yeah, are you there? Okay, yeah, here she is. And she's only got, I guess, a few minutes because she's moving also. So we're working at the speed of thought here.
Yeah, the table that I'm using as a desk right now is going to be taken away in about 20 minutes.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, table, chairs, bureau.
And Lemur's got 15 minutes. So,
Okay. Hi, Lemur.
Hi, good to see you.
Yeah.
So just to start, are you guys signed on as panelists? You're in, this is it, we're moving forward?
Remind me what the date is. I had asked Kevin to do that before. What's the date of the panel?
They told me August 11th at 9 a.m.
Oh yeah, that's good. I'm not, the day that I'm actually moving is the 5th. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't like the 4th or 5th.
And
Okay.
just for the background, like Kevin and I pitched this way back in April, maybe, for the Diversity Inclusion Summit. And then we got bumped. It's all happened behind the scenes. We had no idea. Then we got bumped to the education group, who then bumped us to the Birds of a Feather for education and diversity. So I had to then resubmit like a week ago because and they confirmed, but then I don't have it on the website. So I've just been asking Siggraph, I'm like, when is this going to be real? So we can actually move forward, because I don't want to waste anyone's time either if they goof it up again.
Right.
That said, if they goof it up again, we're going to find another platform. But Siggraph has said it's approved. So far, so good.
So if you ever lose your job, now you have good training to collect unemployment.
I've actually collected unemployment when
we have,
and it's it was
the gold standard of bureaucratic implosion. Okay.
Well, in Canada, for me, I'm not going to go into it, but basically, I had no idea if it was going to be accepted. I just sent it away and went, please give it.
So Anna Marie, before you came on, Jennifer was giving Lemur a little bit of a background on herself and Foundry. So I know you're a little bit up on it, but Jen, if you can give Lemur some of your background and how you are.
Yeah, so really quickly, my company, I mean, we're working hard on our own diversity policies. We're small, we're not a huge company, so we personally don't have a huge story. What we do offer is we offer technology software that could help empower students. But we also partner with a couple of organizations that are very focused on diversity and inclusion in the technology space. So there's one group that's with a whole bunch of companies. That's where I met Kevin, the Academy Software Foundation. And that is engineering and technology, getting in through open source, but finding out that there's career paths within the film industry through engineering. And then I work with another organization in the UK that's global, but very UK heavy, called Access VFX. That is very focused on diversity on several different levels, whether it's skin color, whether it's community, whether it's diversity in general. Like there's a group that's very focused on Black creatives in VFX, and then there's a group that's focused on it's called Queer VFX, that's focused on sexual orientation, and then they do a lot of socioeconomic outreach in terms of like the different regions in the UK where people have zero access to universities and talent and whatnot. So, you know, Foundry's small, and we are trying to make our own personal gains. But I think what the story that I can bring is that there's companies working with these bigger organizations within the film industry that are really trying very hard to showcase the opportunities. And I think the last thing I'm going to say is I think that's the hardest thing, is making people aware of the opportunities, and how do you bring these opportunities to a group of kids in a underfunded high school in the middle of America, Canada, UK, wherever, New Zealand. Yeah.
Well, they're all different bureaucracies in a sense.
Sure. Yeah, we won't try and solve that, but
no. Yeah, I mean, do you go through the school system, you go through the government, you know, there's a lot of different, and places they're better integrated than they are here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think also on that point, this is where it gets interesting in terms of how we learned over this last 18 months that these tech platforms, these communities, these learning resources can be super national or super regional, right? You can be in New Zealand and find the website that's based in Canada. Yeah. And the government doesn't have to, I mean, maybe you're behind a firewall, but you can even get around that. So, you know, designing things and opening up the channel so people can really discover them without the legacy blockers.
Yeah, definitely. And that's actually what ASWF is very good at. And like, you can contribute wherever you are, anywhere in the world. If you can contribute, they'll take the contribution to this open source software community.
And one quick question for you, Jen, that the things that I remember from kind of visual effects teams. So for instance, a project that I worked on in 2018, we had people in New Zealand that had worked with Weta, I think it was. We had people in Canada. We had people in the Philippines. I mean, and it was completely a decentralized team. Is there an aspect of how Foundry's product is set up to really kind of allow teams to do that by design as opposed to by kind of circumstance?
So in 2019, I would have said no. But every single one of our customers has had to pivot to an online environment. And, you know, even us as a company, we've had people move back home, wherever home is, you know, like we have a lot of Europeans and a lot of expats that work in London that went home during the pandemic. So,
you know, I think that what we've seen in the news is how a sea change now and how people work and where they work. There's a lot of people that don't want to go back to the office or the studio.
The tricky thing about global movement that we have to be mindful of, we don't want to be too aspirational, is in the VFX industry specifically, you tend to move with tax credits. So I've seen jobs where they're like, yeah, you can live anywhere in the UK. You can live anywhere in Quebec. You can live anywhere in BC. But for the and I'm sure Georgia is similar, maybe, I don't know. But it's very focused on like your region. So you can be anywhere. You don't have to be in Atlanta. Again, I don't know Georgia, but in Canada, you can be anywhere in BC. You don't have to be in Vancouver. You don't have to be in an office, but you can't be from another province because then the tax credits. But that's only very specific places in the world. So I don't think that's applicable everywhere. I have seen our customers be a bit more global in their approach to people, where people can be more remote. Weta's, for example, been very good at trying to figure that out.
Great.
That's good.
And
I
Jen,
also,
if you
at
can,
some point, I can add some resources in terms of the international level. Dale Herrickstad is amazing. He's in London now. He's become a UK citizen. He started out with a company called H Designs. He's got a long history. He's a remarkable designer. And he gives back. He's interested in that. Johanna Sam just moved to Australia about 6 months ago. Another good designer who really, he's come to my classes about 5 or 6 times, and he might be of use. Yeah.
That's good. And then I think quick question for, because I know Anna Maria and Lemaire are limited in time. Can you summarize in like 20 seconds what you'd like to focus on in the panel? And I think then we can build a narrative around it, if that's okay. What's your take? Because I'm thinking of design versus VFX. I don't want to make it too VFX heavy, you know, because that's me. So I'd love to hear from you guys. Like, if you could focus on something, what would it be? But what's the one point you want to get across?
I would get across the point of understanding roles in a production, that these are collaborative. So yes, you might need a VFX person, and you might need a designer, and they are 2 different roles. They need to be together, and how to understand the teams and respect and identify the creativity from engineers to business people to designers and artists and writers and directors. So I mean, I come from the media industry. I have, as Kevin might tell you, pretty strong feelings about, for example, the diversity, that this new rule to have people take 1 class in Native American studies or 1 in African American. And I said, I believe that that's a great idea, but they should all have a full-on class that covers like a survey course that covers a little bit of each first, so that you're not just saying, okay, I studied African Americans, that's all I need to know.
I get it.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's it.
Okay, so for you, it's like if a student's watching this, your takeaway is your success will be focused on, like, one of your measures of success is having your students understand the roles in the industry, whatever industry it may be, whatever
Yes.
if they want to study design, if they want to go into design or video games or
Yes.
interactive design or film, understand the pipeline.
And yeah, exactly. That's understand the pipeline, understand that they may cross over too. A good designer might actually end up becoming a good business person, like Dale did, you know, so, and vice versa. Yeah.
Okay.
And the lawyers that became filmmakers.
And when you're saying design, which categories are you speaking of?
You know, we have, like, I think of design, I think of product design. Like, I think of 3D and modeling. I also think of interactive design, like advertising and like some of the stuff that's happening with real time and installations. Like, I heard there's a friend of mine works for Panasonic. So I heard this crazy. There's a huge Michael Jordan shop or Air Jordan shop opening up in LA, and a Montreal company that does like huge projection walls have been engaged. Yeah, they're doing all the projection mapping, and it's a huge installation, not just a store.
Wow.
And yeah, this came like totally not from work, this story. I was like, oh, that's interesting. That's actually what we do. So I think design, I think, you know, anything from, you could design video games, you could design industrial design.
Gaming is important, that's interactive, visual, just even visual arts design, a poster, anything. Design to me is organizational thinking in terms of the material and the medium. So that's, and that can shift from one field to another. So to understand, recognize, and see the importance of an underlying design in a game or in visual effects.
Does that resonate with you, Lemar?
It does. I just wanted my experience of kind of you know, speaking to creatives, designers, some that know, some that don't know. It's vast, and it touches so many different aspects of business and culture and you know, technology. I just want to make sure I'm understanding this audience a little bit. And with Siggraph, from what I understand, you've got a highly technical, foundational kind of set of companies like yours and any number of groups that, you know, are software centric. How could I make sure I'm talking about the design categories of interest at the top of the list?
Gotcha. I would say, I mean, if I think of students, like so this is kind of going to be in the educational track, which will attract teachers, maybe some students. But I would think from a teaching perspective, design at Siggraph could be anything from, like, I know the New Jersey School of Architecture always goes to Siggraph because I always see this guy Glenn register. It could be like interactive for VR. It could be for advertising campaigns. It could be for anything. So I think when you think design, it could be anything that needs technology versus maybe less so than a poster design. Like you might not get that crowd. That might be more of the Adobe crowd that might dip their toe in, but not really. Where I think it's more 3D and it's definitely more along those lines.
Yeah, and I agree. I think if we're narrowing more, they go more towards interactive because that's crosses over from gaming to XR, VR and AR. So that's, I think is really important. And that's another kind of level of design because that game design is becoming foundational for other media that's being interactive. The whole designing a branch. If this, then what? You have consequences for every action that triggers other levels.
I'll give one last example, Limmer. So this company Epic that makes Fortnite, they've been making huge inroads into virtual production because using game engine to get quick results of what you're trying to do, like on set. And I saw a post from their general manager on LinkedIn today. Ferrari uses Unreal to do their car configurator, whoever gets online and decides to order Ferrari, which I don't know who does that, but anyway. So they have the car configurator. They use also Unreal to do advertising and models, but then they're also putting the car in Fortnite. So Unreal does this whole metaverse thing they call, which is like the whole world is part of the metaverse, which not our style. I'm not touching that. I don't work for them. It's too big for me to get into, but just thinking of designers, there's a lot of people thinking at Siggraph in that space too, because they're excited about the things that Epic's putting forward.
The metaverse is pretty hot now. Charlie Fink has written a couple of really interesting books on that. If you look him up, he's kind of a metaverse guru. I don't know if we'd be able to get him involved at this date, at this point in time, but maybe.
It makes me feel too old. I don't understand it.
He's older than you and me.
Well, just to answer your question right now for my own selfish purposes, I need to jump off here in a couple of minutes. But I think what I can try to do is to talk about how design and design technology are exponential multipliers of all the possibilities that people have. So as you just mentioned, there's at least minimum 10 major vertical industries that people can look at, and I can try to list some of them, and they keep multiplying themselves, of course. But I think that's kind of how I would try to approach it, is how do designers and creatives approach technology for their purposes?
Yeah.
And part of that is also going to touch on the educational need for it, which is they need to have really great training. They need to have really great exposure to the mentors who are doing the work and learning their craft around that, right? Because it's easy to get your hands on the tools, but do you know what you're doing with them? I mean, I can open up Unreal Engine and I'm lost. How do I get into that and make something out of that? So I'll try to cover that. And then maybe the last thing is how people think about these as larger context for them to have a business of their own, or something that they explore, like the whole metaverse concept, that you can have virtual businesses, virtual games, and other things. That's, again, going to continue to expand. And I think that's where some of the lights will hopefully turn on for people in terms of, well, I don't know if I want to go and work inside of the big Silicon Valley company or the big, Raleigh, North Carolina company now. Right. I would like to experiment with the game, and how can I get that all together? Well, if you understood these tools, you could do some of it.
Right. And guys, Lemur, before you jump off, one of the things that we are trying to do is bring in an audience of community college and four-year university students, primarily people who have no knowledge of the career pathways and all the roles. So there is a Siggraph registration, and Jennifer's given us a password that allows us to give everybody a free registration to Siggraph. So we can create our audience and our communities of people who can invite to be part of the panel. So that is definitely one of the things I'm trying to accomplish. And Jen, if you can, real quick, we're trying to work on a fellowship program that Foundry and some of the organizations that she's connected with will help to create some awareness and some access to tools so that students can actually have an ongoing mentorship And this is something that could become a bridge for those people who are going to be, again, nebulously aware that there's some growth or some industry, but how do they get in?
Well,
Right,
Kevin,
and I think they need to understand too that it'd be, I don't know if Lamar would do this or I could do it too, is how do you learn to bridge? What's the language? What are the ways to bridge between technology experts and designers and writers? So how do you know to decide between Unity and Unreal? They're both pretty deep to know, and how far do you want to
well,
go for a student?
I think you're right. You're 100% right. I think what we need to do, because think about the panel, I think I'm not even sure how long it is. I gotta check. I think an hour. But I think if it's, let's say it's 45 minutes plus Q&A, and we have 4 speakers and a moderator, just to break it down, we each have like 10 minutes of talking time if we're all split, right? So that's where what we can do is we'll probably need to figure out what biggest message do we want to get across to the educators and the students. My biggest message would be, whatever you're interested in, whatever you're learning, learn those communities. If you're learning Unreal, you're learning Nuke, you're learning Adobe Photoshop, go to the websites, follow them on social media, see where they're pointing people, because that's where you're going to find those connections within that space. That's my focus. Like, how do you use your learning software, which is great, but how do you go beyond just picking up a tool? And there's a wealth of information that each company holds. They have free resources, free training, but it's actually trying to find it. That's the needle in a haystack. It's so hard to figure out how to do it. That's going to be
I would remind them to do things like LinkedIn and others where they can find professionals and experts in certain areas there. Check out the companies and people at it. And sometimes even a cold letter can get through it. Write it well.
That's a course in and of itself, is just how to network. These guys are kind of charisma impaired sometimes, so they don't really have the ability or the confidence to engage with an expert or a mentor. So that's something that they're going to have to get better at.
So maybe Kevin, that's your bit that you focus on, is the networking. Talk to your teachers, talk to each other, use social media to your advantage type thing. Maybe is that something you'd want to focus on your bit?
Absolutely. I definitely want to make sure that the audience, whether it be students, teachers, or mentors, are able to find some sweet spot where they could get more comfortable with each other. I truly believe that everything that I want to do is underpinned by mentorship. But what does that really mean? And obviously the thing that I'm going to try to do with the community college students is try to get them more, more compelled to get, again, more charming, more engaging, and basically just ask questions, because that's the only way that anybody can help them, if they know where they, where they lack in terms of skill set, as well as just the archetype of a person who could actually eventually ever be in visual effects. Because as you said, most of the people in 2D world, that's a challenge in and of itself, but just to get from 2D to 3D and anything else is a huge journey.
Yeah. I just want to interject before I have to jump, unfortunately. I have a mentor story that I had buried beneath the years now here, but there was a company called Rhythm and Hues at one point.
I know.
And my instructors at USC actually told me about Siggraph. I didn't get a chance to go because it just didn't work out, but they introduced me to this guy who was I think he was like the head of the modeling group at Rhythm and Hues. And he had been an architecture guy out of Ohio State. And so I met with him and he said, well, what do you want to do? And at the time I said, well, I'm interested in production design. We said, okay, well, let me see your portfolio. So I showed him stuff and he says, okay, well, this is really great. But what we do here may or may not be of interest to you. If it's of interest to you, I recommend you start by making a model of a motorcycle, right? I don't like motorcycles. I didn't really understand them, but I said, sure, I'll try it, right? And so what that did for me was that taught me the tool at another level of professional craft. I was at, I don't know, halfway point through the program at USC, but all to say, there's a preparation and an openness mindset that I can talk about with regard to these students coming to the table. Because there's one thing to network and then miss your opportunity because you don't have a portfolio you don't have
Right.
an openness mindset, you think you want that specific thing, and you frankly are not ready for it, and the mentor is either going to tell you yes or no based on that. So all that to say, I think there's a kind of Yoda thing that has to happen in terms of how students really get themselves ready. They look around, they understand, they know who to talk to, but are you really ready to talk to them and show and prove? And that's the difference between someone coming from, frankly, a very privileged community college here in California and someone out of the Philippines that doesn't have that, but they've got the will and the grit to go in there and build that portfolio. They're going to get the job.
Yeah, I can build upon that actually in terms of experimentation and taking on a challenge that maybe you don't know it all, but realizing in full recognition that you don't want to fail in this industry in particular, make mistakes. You still don't have to be totally afraid of failure. You kind of have to. You have to try.
And I think we need to, so our title of our panel is Skilling Up a Diverse Workforce in a Post-Pandemic World. Is it going to be post-pandemic or just a pandemic world? We're thinking like, we should be talking to the teachers too, right? Like just keeping that in mind, like telling the teachers, especially if teachers are coming in and they're from, like, I used to work with Skills USA. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but like, this is like a high school competition. We'd be in like the middle of Kansas doing this whole massive competition with thousands of kids, and the kids in the 3D class, their teachers don't know anything. They're high school teachers that are trying to teach shop and all these things and 3D. I mean, the poor teachers, right? So we also need to encourage the teachers. Like if you have a student that has a spark, and you might think they have no chance of being, on stage at Siggraph in 10 years, but they do, because everybody does. But here's what you can do too, like encourage the mentorship, encourage them to do X, Y, Z. I think we can help them a little bit potentially.
We had a whole program at AFI that was a K-12 screen education, not media literacy, not that, but screen education. So it was teaching teachers. That's who we worked with. We worked with LACO, we worked with schools. We taught the teachers how to do some basic filmmaking techniques, simplest things, continuity, shot here, shot there, that they then taught to their class. And we gave them ideas for the class to have projects. So it was the teachers who really were given some tools to pass on to a greater number of students. And I still think that's a pretty great model.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so
yes. Unfortunately, I have to jump, but fantastic to meet you, Jennifer. Good to see you again, Anna Marie. And I want to ask you about that Sky Vodka bottle in the background there.
Do I have one? Yes, I do have one.
Yeah, that was a brand that I worked on for probably 7 years. Anyway.
Oh, that's funny. Well, it's still about like 3/4 full, but it might not be after this movie. And it's right next to a California poppy, Amara, which is much less full. That's made with native California herbs. About 2 blocks away from me downtown. There's a
You're making me want a glass now. It's I think we need to regroup though in 2 weeks if we can, also with Maya, so we can plan. So what I'll do is I'll create, do you guys use Slack?
Yeah. My Women in XR group is on Slack.
Limer, do you use Slack?
Sparingly, but I'm on there. If we need to, we will.
Okay, I gotta figure, I barely know how to use it. So I'm gonna figure out how to make a channel for us on my Foundry Slack. I'll invite you guys. Okay. And then what we could do is we can brainstorm there. And I would love to build a resource slide for teachers. That we can email it if they ask us. We could maybe put on Dakar Foundation website. And then we build a little resource just about, if you're interested in technology, look at these things, and that we could share that with the teachers and the students, and encourage them, share with your network, share with your friends, because we could do that. So we could do that on the Slack, so we can at least plan for it.
Okay. My daughter, I'm going to stop you for a minute. I just want to introduce Nina. She's never met Kevin, for one.
Hi, Nina.
And Jennifer. So we're just finishing up here. Okay.
So I know you have to go, Lemaire. So look for my Slack invite. I'll figure it out on Monday how to do that.
And Lemaire, I'm going to send you the password so you can register. So try to register as soon as possible. It's Dell 21, right?
Yeah, there's no rush, so don't panic on that. Because you can register up until the day, but we have a free pass, so you don't have to spend. But as a speaker, I just got to figure out the Siggraph side, because they're not answering me where this panel is, and for some reason, if it doesn't show up here, we're going to find a place for a panel. But it's going to happen. We're going to record it.
Okay, guys, take care.
Right,
Okay,
thank
thanks,
you.
Omer.
Um,
I better go too. We're getting into the moving mode.
okay, perfect.
But I will
Okay.
send you a link about Dale and also Johanna Sam. I think they might be interesting people to bring to this conversation some way, or just resources. in
Yeah, I
general.
don't think we shouldn't have more.
No. I don't mean.
I mean, I don't
speak-
mind, and I don't mind stepping down if there's someone who can do a better job. I'm happy to.
No, I don't think they necessarily need to be speakers, but they might be good resources for this
Okay.
if we're going forward. Yeah, and especially Dale also is dealing with the whole country of Thailand and doing design for
Oh,
interactive.
amazing. No, and it was more speakers would be amazing if we were in person, but
Yeah.
we find on Zoom after 4, it's no
No,
one
I
gets
know.
to talk.
I know, I've been through many of them. Anyway, I just think that these people
sure.
would be an ongoing good resource because they're interested in education and giving back as well, and just brilliant designers.
Let's share. Oh yeah, we'll share all those resources in the channel, and then we can pick through it.
Sounds good. Put it on Slack.
Yes, I'm gonna figure that out.
Okay.
You will.
Good luck with your move, Anna Marie.
Thank you.
No
Thank you.
problem.
It'll be
All
done
right,
by the
bye.
5th, I hope, the 6th. Okay, bye.
That's horrible.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay.
And hey, Kevin.
Okay, Jen. All right. So what can I do to help, again, get Maya up to speed? We're going to talk tomorrow for the first time in almost a month. I'm recording this really for her.
Okay. Well, let's basically, I think what Maya needs as a moderator is a 1-pager that basically, and this we'll have to get from conversations in Slack with Lemur and Anna Maria, really nail down their area of focus, because Maya's role, she'll set the stage. You know, everyone is talking about wanting more diversity. How do we get there? What do we have to do for as teachers, for our workforce? If you're a student, what can you do? And it's really about, I guess, opportunities and networking. I mean, honestly, Kevin, I wish we had better answers. I'm applying, I have this job posting, and let me tell you how undiverse it is in the candidates that are coming forward. Like, it's not us recruiting, they're just coming forward, and the diversity is a lot lower than I would like. So I think it's awareness, and I think there needs to be a sensitivity that it's not easy when you're on the other side. Like, it's easy for companies to be like, we want more diverse people. But like, you're dealing with people that, like, I think of Canada and the Indigenous, you're dealing with people with trauma who, are still healing from generational trauma, like the Black communities in the States. And, not everyone is up to speed on LinkedIn networking because you're dealing with a lot of other factors in this world, So I think.
Right. Yeah. Well, and that's my overarching goal, is to try to take the folks from my communities who are underprivileged, under the radar screen, underappreciated, to try to get them to create some energy and some receptiveness to new information, so that, again, people can engage and activate them into some program. But again, I believe if we can set some, North Star for them to say, beyond this panel, we are going to attempt to put some type of movement together so that all of the influencers can bring their students and can bring their communities along. And we can have conversations about, well, what is the most critical thing that we can do to sustain some movement. That would be my perfect world. And again, the mentorship program that we've been mentioning to Santa Monica, I think that this is possibly the, possibly the experiment that could, provide a weekly or a bi-weekly conversation about what can we do with all of these stakeholders and all of these people having some say-so, and what is the objective, or what is the one thing that I think we can actually all agree on that we can accomplish in a semester, or in a period of time. So because that's what I always look at is what pilot can we do to say that we can actually measure any success that we had, so that we can actually build upon it.
Totally. So I don't want to mix. So from the panel perspective, my personal wish for the teachers out there is to listen to the different experts on the call. Listen to Anna Maria when she tells you to teach your students about how to understand roles and pipeline and intersections. And then Lemur focusing on the importance of training and his example in recruiting and mentorship and getting feedback and putting yourself out there. I think, these two bits. And mine is going to be really, if you're teaching software in a school, it's so important for you to really try and connect with those software companies, because there's a host of programs. Companies of all sizes offer education, and sometimes it can feel daunting to find them. But they exist, and they exist out there. And there's a lot of people that are passionate about helping education. So reach out to Autodesk or Adobe. That's my take, like, to tell the teachers, like, there's a lot you can do.
And I think there's a person that I believe can do a better job than I can in trying to introduce to students, teachers, and anybody that's really in the building of networking processes. I think you met him. He was on the last panel. His name is Ted Milner. He and his wife are the #1 executive temp placement agency in Hollywood. And literally, his wife has created a program for the HBCUs where she's placed probably 30 people in internships where most people are struggling to even get a bite of the apple. And she's been able to really effectively network her students into getting these positions, paid positions, this summer. And so I think that they have some really good practices of how they can take the baseline and move it to a place where folks can get a modeling for how this is not such a daunting task. It's not something impossible, but I think that they can prove the point that there is a movement that can happen if we don't have people that are naysayers or just saying, well, where's the opportunities? Where's this? Where's that? Because they're there. We just have to really aggregate all the things that we can that are solid ways that we can show evidence that these people are willing to give their time, their energy, and more importantly, their contacts. So Ted Milner might be a better person than I.
Okay, but just remember our it's skilling up a diverse workforce, content creation in a post-pandemic world. So we're very focused. So I think Ted's amazing and his wife sounds amazing, but that's not the panel.
Right. So content creation. Okay. Well, yeah.
I forgot the name. I just found it. And it's right here. Look, we actually have it. We just got it. It's just you and I right now listed. So hold on. It's right here. But we're there. We're on the website, you and I.
Oh, okay, great. Well, I think I'm going to focus on the archetype of the person that I believe mentors, professionals, and people willing to step in as a role to help guide these people. We're going to have to try and make sure that the archetype of the student is very precise in what we're looking for. We're not going to be able to help you plan a path to something that will allow us to try and help you. Because again, not everybody's going to be ready for a mentorship opportunity. These mentees have to really be prepared for this opportunity. So I'm going to really be focusing on making sure that we have an application, we have a process, and we get these people, who are really hungry and thirsty for the opportunity.
You mean for Santa Monica?
For the mentorship. Yes, Santa Monica.
So what I'll do, we'll close on the panel. I think on the panel that you should focus on the voice of the student and the community. It's your passion. It comes across so well. If I can be so bold to give you some guidance on focus, I would focus on the fact that there's so many students out there that are hungry to learn and need the support, and partnering with different companies. And I think your story about when you brought kids to Siggraph is so powerful, right? Like I used to tell students, just by being here, you're giving yourself a step up. Just by showing up, you're taking one step towards your future. So many other kids might be like sitting there playing video games and rotting their brains away. Like my daughter's a video game addict at 9. It's terrible. So not really, because we don't let her have that much time, but she wants to play all the time. And, you know, I always told students. So I think by talking to those educators, talking about that and bringing that voice of like, they need this help from you as your teacher. You're their first mentor. You know what I mean? Like you're the first grown up that they say, this is what I want to do when I grow up. You're the first one to be exposed to that. So how do you help them? And this is how you can help them.
What's encouraging, thank you for reminding me. I've almost forgotten really what my role has been as this, you know, kind of community transactionist. I just put in a link there, the story that they did on the LA Times on us. They want to do a follow-up to find out what things have happened since the pandemic has, well, supposedly slowed down and we're going back to some physical instruction. So I can really follow that that thread of what do we do during the pandemic or in preparation for pandemic ending to really re-engage where we were before the pandemic struck us. So I can talk about those kind of things that we're trying to put into place. And literally, Ted Lai has been my biggest champion about really changing the way that we engage these digital learners. And obviously, the terms and the things that I really want to focus on are, you know, things like challenge-based learning and performance-based learning, giving these kids an opportunity to work from their homes or from their bedrooms, really being able to create the kind of exercises where they don't just listen to speakers and lectures. They actually get a chance to work with the software and to tinker and possibly even, you know, do something that they can share with one another. Peer-to-peer networking is going to be more important than ever right now for these guys.
That's amazing.
Okay.
Oh, amazing.
So, okay. So, yeah, so I want to share the registration with all the students that I can get to. Fall semester happens for most of the community college students the second week. And so what the panel's at 9 o'clock in the morning. So, you know, that might give us a chance to get a few folks. And Cal State Northridge is one of my vendor relations. I'm actually a mentor with the digital media and TV and film department, and I can make sure I populate all of the information inside of all of the bulletins and press releases there, as well as the whole California State University system. Do you think that there's probably too many people we shouldn't have, or should it be open to everybody I can reach?
Oh my God, put as many people on this as possible. I would go wide with promoting it. Oh, are you talking about the panel? Or are you talking about the mentor program?
The panel.
Yeah, let's make sure we're going to post it too at Foundry. 100%.
Yeah. So
100%.
I'll put it out there for all the people who really do want to find out what's next, and you know, how to get them prepared for what could be the mentorship program. And so when that's ready for us to publicize, I think we can create a database of people who we can pick from, who can really be a good match for the mentorship program.
Yeah, so my next step right now, I got to follow up with Kevin because he responded to me. I need to talk to that classroom teacher, the one that would be the teacher in the classroom. Okay. I need to go back to Access VFX and say, this is how many students we think they're going to be. So it's on me to respond to Kevin and keep you in CC, because then I need to go to Access and I have to think, do I have to go find mentors? What I would like to do is go out to a few of the Black creatives that I've worked with and ask them to sign up to be matched to this class specifically, because that there's, you know, it's more diverse than the typical classrooms that they might be thinking of. And I want to make sure that the kids in this class also have access to people that might look like them more than others.
Right. Well, Anna Marie gave me some suggestions. She has a Latino man and a woman, and obviously in the community college system, they're the, you know, they're the most predominant culture that is in the community college system. So she gave me a few people that could become mentors, as well as she gave me an Asian man but we also have a lot of folks who are interested in upskilling themselves, kind of like, well, obviously there's some instructors who, could, kind of gain some more opportunities to learn about how they can share things that could be transparent overlays to their traditional 2D media and film classes.
You mean
so
teachers want the access to the mentor program?
I think that's going to be part of the strategy, because again, if they're going to be the critical point to get the course credits and to get these students engaged in ways where they can actually apportion part of their time for it, they're going to have to encourage these guys to do some of this, DIY stuff. And if they don't have a very good understanding, especially of the lexicon of the language of it, there's not going to be a lot of movement. So I do have a few instructors who I think would really benefit from an externship, if you will.
So I'm going to bring that to that Access VFX group, and because we have an education meeting once a month. I'm going to find out, because like I said, we just sponsored this mentorship platform and we haven't really been physically involved with it that much. I'm trying to change that, because I feel like you have to put the energy in to get something out of it. Let me find out. I don't know, like ASWF is open to anyone. But I really like the idea of mentorships for teachers, actually. So anyone's, but I think with Access, it's only focused on students at a certain age level right now, but maybe this is the next level where it's mentorship. And let me find out if I can invite you into some of these meetings, because I just don't know if you have to be a member or not. Let me do some more research on that, and I'll find out.
Yeah, so the externship component is something that they've talked about, but I don't know how much time and energy it's going to take for an instructor. Externship.
Cool. I've never heard of that before.
Yeah, it's a real thing, and literally what the pandemic has done. Yeah, what the pandemic did is it really took that momentum out of the consciousness of the faculty to really kind of do anything other than survive and advance through the pandemic.
Oh my God. I can't even imagine. I mean, I saw what my daughter's grade 3 teachers are going through. I can't imagine, level that up 10 more years, young. I mean, I can't, it's been the word my girlfriend just left. She's a teacher in Albany, and her year was just visiting.
Well, that's definitely something that Anna Marie and Lemur can talk about, because Lemur's been an instructor. And Anna Marie obviously is one of the more advanced thinking instructors in the California State University system. Her class really is kind of the tipping point of getting teachers better prepared for multidisciplinary work in digital media. Computer science and film and TV traditionally, they just don't meet. And so I think she's pushing the envelope a little bit more about, how we're going to have to get the whole infrastructure set up to be better prepared for, mixing computer science and creatives together. I mean, the time has been past where we needed this, but that's what I'd like to be as a rallying point to make sure that these people understand that we come in peace and we're here to help them.
And they need help. Oh,
they desperately, because they can't support any of the things that we're talking about in the classroom if they don't understand it.
No, I mean, that was my biggest takeaway from Skills USA. So Autodesk at the time when I worked there, we sponsored the 3D visualization challenge. And again, I don't know how much you know about skills, but it's basically a whole series of skills. And then kids compete like in Olympics, right?
Yeah, right. Now, I had a class at JFK in Granada Hills. It was part of our community college initiative to bring high school students into, it was called, what was it called? Well, it was a program that gave students community college credits. So by the 12th grade, they had an AA degree. And I had a class that was a digital media class that won, I believe they came in first place at Skills USA.
It's bonkers. I mean, it was, for me as a Canadian, it was so eye-opening at just the vastness of America, like just and like how wasn't that exposed to American high school system. I mean, why would I, right? Like, but as in high school, we only went camping in the States. Like, I didn't know anything of like, and seeing like these thousands of students, but really like especially in 3D, where it's such a resource hog in terms of computers, and just seeing the like the lack of technology knowledge that came from the teachers.
Oh, man.
Like, and I don't blame the teachers, because this stuff's hard, especially when my experience is 11 years ago when I was involved. And I was just like, how do you teach this?
Yeah, it's daunting. It's daunting. And I again, I'm fighting a good fight, but it really is the institutions, the public schools institutions that are more resistant to any change in how they do anything, to integrate new ways of learning and new tools. But again, I think the time has come where I think with the pandemic, I think people are going to obviously have to be more realistic about the fact that there's a tremendous need for something dynamic and how these students can catch up with the last almost 2 years of a void. And I mean, it's almost going to be 4 semesters of some students not having access to even the traditional way of education, which was lacking in some ways. So there's a lot of work that has to be done for us to try and get these new ideas and new ways in the consciousness of the people. I'm losing my voice for some reason.
Yeah, make sure you have lots of tea with honey before our panel. Quick question for you. Is Maya, like, is she interested in this? Does she want to be part of it?
Yeah. Her and I'm sharing this with her, but she is she's an author, a publicist, but she does a lot of the white papers on best practices of diversity. So she's a diversity specialist. So when you talk about diversity and inclusion, she is the one that talks about equality and privilege as some of the things we have to really dissect. And one of the things I liked about what you said is that we want to find ways to tackle privilege and what that is and what that isn't. And I think that she can really speak on some of the things that could create some awareness about diversity inclusion, where I don't think a lot of people have gotten very deep into some of the things that are lacking in our diversity and inclusion movements. And there's a lot of people who obviously I think would be interested in how they can get better. And there's some people who probably are, well, they're fine just staying in their silos. But there are some best practices of how to get, if you will, get more inclusive of the people that are trying to, be, really the focus of pulling up their boots by their bootstraps, because they just, are, if you don't know them and you don't know how to reach and talk to them, it's very little you can do with them.
I'm so glad Maya is our moderator.
Yeah. She is probably she is the soul of what it is that I'm trying to do, because she has really published a lot of data about where things are.
I just wanted to make sure that that she I know she's really busy, and so I'm glad that she's I felt bad that she got all these emails and I didn't hear from her, so I wanted to make sure she was keen on it, and that's wonderful, and I'm excited to have her.
Well, I'm gonna share this with her. Yeah, she's a big fan of Lemurs, so they want to panel together at UCLA School of Business. We had a good time. So yeah, I think this is going to be fun, and I'm definitely going to make sure that everybody on the panel invites their network, especially people that they haven't seen since the pandemic.
Yeah, well, that's the challenge too, right? Okay, so I will commit. I'm going to respond to Kevin by end of today. I'm going to
David.
Oh. You know what? It's because I have a friend named Kevin Hall. That's why I keep doing this. And I have you and David, and I keep calling him Kevin because I think of my friend Kevin Hall. And I have another friend named Kevin Clark.
So there's a lot of magnetism to the name Kevin. I've been called, I've had a lot of this happen. So, no problem. But
no, it's my fault. It's my friend Kevin Hall's fault, not yours.
So follow up with him. But if you can't see me on all the communication.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he is ready to go.
Yeah, I'll answer him right now. I gotta leave my house in half an hour to get my daughter at day camp, but I will call, I'll email him right now. I need just some more information on the class. I need to talk to that teacher, find out how willing they are for this program, what they're looking for, and then we can go to next steps.
Great.
Brilliant.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Kevin.
Okay.
I'll
thank
email
you.
David right now.
Okay,
Bye.
thank you. Bye-bye.